Welcome to the Blood Pressure Self-Monitoring Program Nutrition Education Seminar on reducing your sodium intake. This is a topic that we know may help with lowering blood pressure. The topics for today's seminar are nutrition and blood pressure facts. What is sodium? Reducing sodium intake, low sodium meal options, choosing healthier options, the low sodium lifestyle, why does it work? Nutrition and blood pressure. Nutrition choices have a direct impact on blood pressure. The Blood Pressure Self-Monitoring Program nutrition seminars address various ways of eating that we should be mindful of to stay healthy and effectively manage blood pressure. For the general population, the 2010 Dietary Guidelines for Americans recommends everyone consume less than 2,300 milligrams of sodium per day. Reducing sodium intake can have a direct impact on blood pressure. It can really help with blood pressure management. Did you know that 9 out of 10 Americans consume more than the recommended amount of sodium? The average American consumes similar to 3,400 milligrams sodium per day. Excess sodium intake may cause the body to retain fluid, may be hard on the heart, makes blood pressure management much more difficult. Who should be most concerned about their sodium intake? Who's at risk? People who are at risk for developing heart disease, which includes individuals who are over 51, African American, have high blood pressure, also known as hypertension, have diabetes or chronic kidney disease. And for this population at risk, the American Heart Association recommends consuming less than 1,500 milligrams of sodium per day. This means half of the US population is at risk for developing heart disease. It's important to establish healthy nutrition and lifestyle habits regardless of your health status to promote health and prevent chronic disease. Everyone should be mindful of sodium intake, not just people who are at risk for heart disease. Now we are going to take a look at what sodium is and how you can reduce your sodium intake. So what is sodium? Sodium versus salt. It's a common misconception that salt and pure sodium are the same thing. That's not true. Sodium, its symbol is Na, is a mineral that the human body needs for fluid maintenance. Sodium bonds to the water, then it pulls that into your bloodstream, which aids nerve impulses and muscle function. The body only needs similar to 500 milligrams sodium to function properly. Common table salt, a crystal-like compound composed of sodium chloride and its symbol being NaCl, is about 40% of the weight of sodium chloride is sodium, and 90% of Americans' sodium intake comes from sodium chloride. Like other minerals, the human body needs sodium to function, but too much can be harmful. Consuming too much sodium leads to excess sodium in the bloodstream. Excess sodium in the bloodstream leads to excess fluid that is pulled into the bloodstream. This leads to the total blood volume in the body to increase, more blood flowing through the body, blood pressure increases. Let's compare this to the garden hose analogy. When we turn on the water, a certain level of water pressure is in the hose. However, when we turn up the water in the hose, the water pressure in the hose increases because more water is flowing through it. This increased pressure is the same thing we see in our bodies. We saw earlier that our body only needs 500 milligrams of sodium to function properly. How many teaspoons of salt do you think would amount to about 500 milligrams of sodium? Great. A quarter teaspoon is the correct answer. Are you surprised? And look, 1 teaspoon equals 2,300 milligrams of sodium. Like mentioned earlier on slide 5, the American Heart Association recommends for people at risk to consume less than 1,500 milligrams sodium per day. This is less than 3/4 of a teaspoon. Where does salt come from? Take a few seconds to think about what foods do you think are high in sodium? Most of the salt in our diets come from processed foods, which is usually anything that comes in a package from the store. Most things we eat go through some sort of processing before we get them from the store. More than 75% of the sodium that we eat comes from processed foods, such as chips, pretzels, etc., bread, condiments, so ketchup, mustard, salad dressings, cheeses, processed meats, pizza, canned goods, and baked goods. Salt in our diet also comes from salting our food, but not as much as you would think. A lot of it is in processed foods we eat, which is dangerous because often we don't realize when we are consuming a lot of sodium. Often these foods don't taste salty. It seems to be hidden in the food. And it can also be found naturally in the foods that we eat. Some sodium is naturally occurring in fruits, vegetables, and meats too. However, these foods don't have an abundance of sodium, but they do add to your overall body sodium content. Now, where do you think most of the salt you are eating is coming from? Take a minute to pause your video and write those down. You may reduce your sodium intake by reducing the amount of pre-made processed foods you eat and by preparing your own foods so you know what is in them and you can control the amount of sodium you put in. So what can you do? What are some ways you can reduce sodium in your diet? Right, you can eat more fruits and vegetables, fresh, frozen, no salt added canned vegetables. Rinse your canned vegetables and beans to reduce the sodium. Use fresh poultry, lean meat, and fish instead of processed. Limit sauces, ready-made mixes, and instant products. Use spices to flavor your food. Ask for no salt when dining out. Read nutrition facts labels to compare sodium levels. Choose the options that are lowest in sodium. Buy low sodium, lower sodium, reduced sodium, or no salt added options when available. And again, by reducing the amount of pre-made processed foods you eat and preparing your own foods so you know what is in them and you can control the amount of sodium you put in it, may also help reduce your sodium intake. Food labels can have many claims on them related to sodium content. If it has a claim on it, it means it is regulated. When you read the label, it's important to look at the serving size and how many servings there are per package. Some packages will have 2 to 4 servings. Each claim has a quantitative meaning behind it. Let's take a look. For sodium free, you have less than 5 milligrams sodium per serving and contains no sodium chloride. Very low sodium is less than or equal to 35 milligrams per serving. Low sodium claim, less than or equal to 140 milligrams per serving. Reduced sodium or less sodium, at least 25% or less sodium per serving than the usual sodium level of the product. So from the usual or original product. And then the light claim for sodium reduced products is for a low calorie and a low fat food that contains at least 50% reduced sodium per serving. Reducing sodium intake throughout the day. Make meals yourself is a great way to be sure you are not consuming a lot of sodium. Here are 3 sample meals. For breakfast, we have a whole wheat toast with peanut butter, banana, blueberries, and a cup of milk. For lunch, we have quinoa salad with black beans, which were rinsed to remove some of the sodium, scallions, corn, red peppers, mango, and avocado with a cup of milk. And for dinner, we have grilled chicken seasoned with rosemary and lemon with brown rice, broccoli, and a cup of milk. For this breakfast example, what are sources of sodium? Yeah, that's right. You could find it in the bread and the nut butter. So it can be important to look at your bread label and compare different nutrition facts labels to find a bread with lower sodium. And also for your nut butter, the nut butter could be switched to a no salt added version. Now let's look at the dinner. For dinner, where might sodium be added in the process? That's right. In the water when we're cooking the rice, or it may be added to the rice after it's cooked. Now we're going to look at the different meals of the day. For breakfast, lunch, and dinner, we have 2 examples for each. One of the options has a higher sodium content, while the other one is lower. So we're going to determine which one is which. So for our breakfast, we have a breakfast sandwich with 1 egg, 1 slice of cheddar cheese, and turkey bacon on a whole wheat English muffin with a cup of water. The second option is yogurt with oats, blueberries, and sliced bananas with a cup of water. Which option has less sodium? That's right, option 2. So how can we improve option 1 of the breakfast meal? Right. We can have a breakfast sandwich with 1 egg, low sodium cheese, and spinach, or we may opt for the whole wheat toast with no salt added peanut butter and an apple. Now let's look at lunch. Option 1 is Greek salad with spinach, tomatoes, cucumbers, low-fat feta cheese, Kalamata olives, pepperoncini peppers, and Greek dressing with a cup of water. Option 2 is a whole wheat wrap with tomatoes, spinach, black beans, avocado, olive oil, and balsamic vinegar. Which option has less sodium? That's right, option 2. So how can we improve option 1 of the lunch meal? Right, we can do Greek salad with spinach, tomatoes, cucumbers, half of the feta cheese, half of the olives, no pepperoncini peppers, have the olive oil and balsamic vinegar, or dressing on the side so you can control how much is on it. And now let's look at dinner. Option 1 is grilled chicken with brown rice, steamed broccoli, and a cup of milk. Option 2 is a turkey burger with lettuce, tomato, onion, ketchup, mustard, and Swiss cheese on a whole wheat bun with baked sweet potato wedges and a cup of water. Which option has less sodium? That's right, option 1. So how can we improve option 2 of the dinner meal? Great, those are all great ideas. We can have an open-faced turkey burger with lettuce, tomato, onion, low sodium condiments or no condiments, no cheese, baked, baked sweet potato wedges, no salt added, or baked sweet potato, or substitute broccoli or other veggie on the side. And then, of course, our cup of milk. And just a note here, there can be a lot of sodium in the burger bun, turkey, cheese, condiments, and salt on the potatoes. Why do you think reducing sodium works? Because it establishes healthy nutrition and lifestyle habits, promoting health, preventing chronic disease, reduces fluid retention, so there's weight management and blood pressure management. Ultimately, you feel better You eliminate bloating and weight gain associated with fluid retention, easier to manage your blood pressure. Overall, reducing sodium intake contributes to healthy and more nutritious lifestyle. Now we will discuss some changes to reduce your sodium intake. So here are some things to think about. Think about what you have eaten today or yesterday. What kinds of foods have you eaten that would help you reduce your sodium intake? How could you change some of your food choices so you are taking in less sodium throughout your day? Pause your video and write down your thoughts. Think about after you have eaten something that is really salty or after a day of consuming a lot of salt. How do you feel? Right. A lot of times we feel bloated, thirsty, or we want more. Does this feel good? Right, not really. Think about all the kinds of low sodium foods that you can purchase at the grocery store. After learning about reducing your sodium intake and what low sodium means on a label, what can you do to ensure that you aren't taking in too much sodium? Right. You can look at the nutrition facts to see how much sodium is really in the product. If it's more than you thought, how could you reduce it? Reducing the portion size, mix it with other foods or liquids that doesn't have salt. So adding water to soups or mixing in veggies for more volume and to keep sodium down. You can prepare your own food so you know what is in them and how much sodium is in them. Now let's chat about physical activity and high blood pressure management. Physical activity and blood pressure management. Evidence has shown that regular physical activity can lead to a significant reduction in blood pressure and improve other cardiovascular risks. Moderate physical activity has also been proven to decrease blood pressure in hypertensive patients who are less responsive to medical treatment. Target 30 minutes of physical activity a day, equivalent to brisk walking, 6 to 7 days each week, so a total of 180 minutes each week, may result in better management or reduction in one's blood pressure. Equivalent to brisk walking would be you can still talk, but not sing the words to a song easily. It's faster than a stroll. What are some ways you can add physical activity to your day? Pause your video and take a minute to write down your ideas. These are some resources supporting the claim that physical activity can aid blood pressure management shared on the previous slide. Thank you for attending the Blood Pressure Self-Monitoring Nutrition Education Seminar on reducing your sodium intake. Please share your takeaways from this session and changes you will make to reduce your sodium in your diet with your Healthy Heart ambassador at your next follow-up appointment. Please review the Choose Foods Low in Sodium and the Salt and Sodium tip sheet handouts that were provided. Don't forget to self-monitor and track your blood pressure at home and attend your next follow-up appointment. A Healthy Heart ambassador is there to help you practice self-measuring and to answer your questions. This concludes the Blood Pressure Self-Monitoring Nutrition Education Seminar on reducing your sodium intake. Thank you.